everybody, it's me Adele and welcome to my channel Sew for Serenity, where I talk to you about my sewing journey. I talk to you about my love for fabrics, dressmaking and patterns, and we have a little bit of life and sewing chit chat thrown in there as well. So if that's something that sounds of interest to you, please keep on watching. Welcome back to all my regular viewers, and if you're new here, I hope you enjoy this vlog and consider subscribing. Welcome to my vlog today, which is all around the sewing challenge, hashtag Sew Purple to end ALZ 22. So for those of you that don't know what this is, it's an absolutely fabulous sewing challenge that's being run by Michelle Sews Again over on YouTube, or the real Michelle Sews Again on Instagram. So at the end of August, Michelle put out a call out to all of the vloggers out there regarding a sewing challenge that was very, very close to her heart that she was going to be hosting in the whole month of September, and what a challenge it was. So the challenge is a collaborathon that she's doing in connection with a vlogger every single day for the month of September, and it's all to raise funds and awareness for Alzheimer's and dementia research. The hashtag is Sew Purple to end ALZ, Alzheimer's 22, and purple being the colour that is used in connection with dementia and Alzheimer's as the colour of awareness. The reason why Michelle's doing this is because Alzheimer's and dementia research is very, very close to her heart, and I will link a video to her. I will link a card to her intro vlog where she talks about why it's so important to her. But in a nutshell, her father Bruce, who sounds like an absolutely amazing man when she talks about him, suffered from dementia and Alzheimer's in particular, and she talks about her personal story around diagnosis to living with having a family member that has dementia, and how hard it is really, and it's really, really heart-wrenching even for somebody that perhaps hasn't gone through it themselves. Alzheimer's is very close to my heart as well. For those of you that watch my vlogs, you'll know that I do have somebody in my family that has Alzheimer's, and it's my lovely mum, which I'll talk about a little bit more in a while. So the premise of the challenge is very, very simple. It's to sew something purple or make something purple in the month of September, post it on Instagram under the hashtag Sew Purple to end ALZ 22, and you'll be entered into a prize draw. Michelle is also going to be donating Michelle will also be donating $1 for every entry, and with a maximum set of $500 towards Alzheimer's and dementia research. Now, she has got a funding page where she's raising funds towards research, and you can donate there, and I'll put all the links in below. But one of the things that she shares about her dad in her intro video is that he didn't like to have gifts for Christmas. He was a very generous man, and he gave to charity all through his life. And he said that at Christmas he would rather just have a donation made in his name. And that is something they've continued after he passed away. So I just think that's really, really lovely. So his page is in the notes below. I've already made a donation, and I would urge you, if you can't take part in the Sew Purple challenge, to try and make a donation towards that. I know it's quite tight at the moment with the cost of living crisis, where just bills are astronomical, but if anything you can give, even if it's just $1 or £1, that would be great. Before I talk about my challenge with Michelle, I just thought I'd talk to you a little bit about Alzheimer's and dementia, because I know that a lot of people don't know a lot about it. So 1 in 3 people born in the UK this year will develop dementia in their lifetime, which I think is really scary. It actually kills more people than breast cancer and prostate cancer combined. So in the UK, dementia is the only condition in the top 10 causes of death without a treatment to prevent it, without a cure once a person has it, or without any kind of medication that slows the progress of it. Now that is really, really scary. And in 2019, the leading cause of death in women was dementia at 16%. And in men, it was the second biggest killer at 8.8%. Now that is scary, very, very scary. But on a positive, there is loads and loads of research going on out there, and I will put all the links to all of the different places that have all the information about the great studies and research that's going on around the country and the world, and they need your money to do it. So we need to plough some money into this, and we need to raise awareness for it, because I don't think people know that it is such a big killer. And yes, there's lots of diseases out there that are much more high profile, but this is one of the biggest killers, so it needs to be addressed. And people are living longer these days, and maybe that's connected to it, but ultimately nobody wants to see one of their loved ones, or heaven forbid yourself, have this terrible disease. So I thought I'd given you a little bit of information about why this So Purple to End ALZ22 challenge is so close to my heart. For those of you that watch my vlog, you'll know that my mum, my lovely mum, has a very, very rare form of Alzheimer's. The form of Alzheimer's that she actually has is called PPA, and I've written all this down so I get it right, so bear with me while I'm looking at my notes. And it's called primary progressive aphasia, or PPA for short. It's a neurological syndrome that affects the language capabilities, and it makes them become slowly and progressively impaired. Now, some forms of aphasia come from people who have brain injuries or stroke, but that can repair itself with time, whereas the one caused by Alzheimer's is a deterioration of the brain tissue, which is really important for speech and language. The main symptoms are speech and language issues. However, other symptoms that are associated with dementia, like memory loss, can come into play as well. And eventually, all the patients that have PPA become mute and unable to understand spoken and written word. However, most maintain the ability to care for themselves. So the symptoms include struggling to name words, difficulty comprehending spoken and written word, and trouble comprehending the meaning of language. Now, my mum, about 5 years ago, we noticed that she was starting to struggle to find her words. Now, we all have this to a certain extent. You know, has anybody ever been in that conversation where, you know, you say, oh, it's on the tip of my tongue, but I just can't, you can see it in your mind, but you just can't get it, your brain and your tongue to engage. That is what my mum's life is like on a daily basis. And it all started off very, very, you know, ad hoc, the odd word here or there. And it started to progress where, you know, people who spent a lot of time with her really started to notice that, you know, she struggled to grasp some of these words sometimes, or speak some of these words, and she would get frustrated. And it came to the point where I had to say to my mum, I think you need to go to the doctors, because I was worried. I mean, I thought she had a brain tumour or something, to be perfectly honest with you. That's what I thought it was. And I wanted her to go and get it checked out. I never thought it would be Alzheimer's. Really didn't think that. And she just kind of shrugged it off, saying, oh, no, it's just because I'm getting old, blah, blah, blah. But I actually had to be quite harsh with her, and it did upset her, and I had to say, look, Mum, it could be something really serious, and you need to go and get it checked out. You can't live in denial. You know there's something not right, and you need to go and get it checked out. Anyway, long story short, she went to the doctors, and ultimately an MRI scan confirmed that she had this PPA. And, you know, it's progressively got worse, just like it says it will do. You know, she now pretty much cannot communicate really other than a few words. I think she's starting to struggle understanding things as well. You know, especially one word things. Sometimes it's better if it's a sentence, because she can grasp a couple of the words and kind of figure it out. But, you know, nobody really knows what's going on for her, because she can't write, she can't read, she can't communicate, and it's really, really isolating for her, and it's really difficult to watch as a loved one. And, you know, not to be able to remember what your mum sounds like, to have a conversation with your mum, I think we all take for granted. Well, I used to take for granted. And, you know, the life expectancy from diagnosis of PPA is 8 to 12 years. And my mum's had this for nearly 5 years now. So that's always in my mind, that, you know, this may kill my mum, or will kill my mum. Yeah, and that's really, I try not to think too far ahead. I try to live each day I try to live each day by day and not think too far in the future, because if you do that, you will live in fear. Whereas if I just take the day by day and take the positive, and just try and make my mum's life as enjoyable as it can be. You know, she comes round here a lot, she helps look after Alice, you know, her grandchildren are a joy. You know, I try and take her to things like craft shows, and we go on holiday together, and you know, but it's really hard for her, and she gets really frustrated, and she gets cross with my dad because he doesn't understand what she's saying, and because he's not a mind reader, and you know, it's hard on my dad as well. It's hard on everybody. But on a positive, you know, she still knows who we are. You know, she knows who I am. She knows I'm her daughter. She knows that her grandchildren are her grandchildren. She remembers things from, you know, her memory is really good. She just can't tell us about it. And long may that continue. And I am very much a believer of hanging on to the positives. And, you know, that is a real positive, that she's still my mum, and she still knows she's my mum. And I think, you know, when I hear about dementia and Alzheimer's, where people, you know, don't realise that the person standing in front of them is a loved one anymore, that's really heartbreaking. And I just hope that, you know, my mum never gets that part of it. I just hope she can live with this illness, and not let it, you know, define who she is, really. But yeah, so that's my story about my mum. And yeah, my mum's name is Anne. Mum's 69 now. When she got diagnosed, she was 63, which is no age at all, really, is it? But this is why it's so important to raise an awareness and raise funds. So on a positive note, the way I wanted to get behind this is to really support Michelle and her challenge. So with that being said, Michelle basically asked me what project I wanted to work on, and the premise is that we both do the same project, and we reveal our projects on the same day. So my day is the 28th of September, so very towards the end of the challenge, and I decided that I really wanted to do some ice dyeing. Now, I have watched Michelle since I first started sewing, and she has a passion for ice dyeing, and I've watched other vloggers as well, but predominantly Michelle, where she has experimented with her ice dye, and I've loved watching her journey, and she shares that on her YouTube, and yeah, it's just really amazing and beautiful. And I've never really been a lover of tie-dye, that's all I've ever seen. I've never heard of ice dyeing, but ice dyeing just gives you this much more, I feel like ice dyeing you have a lot more control over how you want the pattern to be. You can go for the, you know, the really structured designs that you get with tie dyeing, or you can go to what I prefer is the more kind of watercolour look and subtle look. And so that's what we decided to do. We decided to do an ice dyeing challenge where we weren't going to sew anything. We were going to actually get some ready to wear loungewear, which I had in a grey, and I'll show you a picture of the before here, and she also had some ready to wear, I think, jumper loungewear that she wanted to dye, and we thought, perfect, that'd be great. I'm a beginner ice dyer, so it'd be really great to learn a new skill and reveal on the 28th. So this is my reveal. So what is ice dyeing, first of all? So it's the art of placing ice cubes on top of fabric and then sprinkling with dye powder on top. You let the ice melt, and that dictates how the dye splits and bleeds and literally falls on the fabric, and it leads to some really beautiful, surprising designs. Yeah, and it's like unexpected colours as well. So for example, if you sprinkle a yellow and a blue, you'll get green tones all over. So it's really good to experiment, and I did do a lot of experimenting. So what do you need to ice dye? Well, you need a few things. You need fabric, so what you actually need is, the best fabric to dye is obviously natural fibres, because they absorb the dye better. You can dye synthetic, but you would probably look at different dyes for that. So cotton, silk, linen, hemp, wool, all those types of things. My loungewear was cotton with spandex in it, so predominantly cotton. And then you need your dyes. So I use Dharma Trading Company, and when I did some research on the internet, they were the ones that seemed to be the best, but I'll put the details down below so you can see, and I'll link everywhere that I purchased the dyes from, and they weren't that expensive. I bought quite a few colours, but you know, you don't need to go crazy. You can make some beautiful patterns with just one colour. You also need soda ash. So soda ash is basically bicarbonate of soda heated up in the oven to high temperatures, which makes the soda ash. So it's again natural, not chemicals basically. And the soda ash, the purpose of that is you soak the fabric in the soda ash for 20 to 30 minutes before you dye it, and that actually helps lock in the colour, keeping it vibrant for longer basically. You also need a tray of some description or a bowl of some description to catch the melted ice, because you don't want that going everywhere, and a tray to raise the fabric out of the drops and to put your ice on and your colours on. So they're the utensils that you need. It would be handy to have some gloves, and they do recommend you use a mask as well because you don't want to be breathing in the fumes. I just use a scarf, to be honest with you. Okay, and then how do we go about ice dyeing? So I do have some video which I'll insert in a minute, but I'll just talk you through some of the steps. So the first thing to do is pre-wash your fabric. So you need to get rid of any dirt or grime or any kind of residue from the manufacturing process that is on your fabric, so the dye can really take to your fabric. So pre-wash with detergent, and then what you need to do is soak it in some soda ash. So basically I just got a tub of a kitchen bowl, washing up bowl, filled it with water and added the soda ash. So a lot of the instructions on the internet are all around cups to gallons, because obviously that is an American ratio, but here we work on grams and litres. So I worked it out to be about 20 grams of soda ash per litre of. So this is the soda ash. I put it in my own little container, but yeah, there you go. So it's just basically does look like bicarbonate of soda, and the instructions are on the outside of the packet there. So that is my soda ash. So you mix that in to the bowl of water, and once it's dissolved, you then soak your garments or your fabric in that water for 20 to 30 minutes. Once you've done that, you wring out the fabric and get all the water out. You don't rinse it, you leave the soda water on there. Soda water? You leave the soda ash solution on the clothes. You just squeeze out all the excess water into a bowl, and then you place your garment or fabric onto the tray that you've selected. Now, I used a makeshift ice rack. I basically had some chicken wire in the garage and used that as my rack, and basically wrapped it onto, or attached it onto a plastic storage box that I had as a base. So it was very much, I just made do with what I had. You then, and this is where the minefield can happen, there's lots of different ways that you can scrunch up your fabric or position your fabric to get different designs, and I'll put a few pictures up of what I'm talking about across the screen. The simplest way is to scrunch your fabric and just, you know, very randomly make scrunches. You can do it very tightly, or you can do it very loosely, and you'll get a different effect. You can also use balls underneath, so tin foil screwed up balls, which gives you a much looser scrunch, and I did test that as well. Or you can do things like spirals, you can twist it, you can use some special type of string that doesn't absorb the dye, and you can tie, a bit like tie-dyeing, onto your fabric, and then that will mean that those bits that have got that string on it, that will stay white. And that's another tip to remember. If you have any areas that don't have any ice on them, that area will stay white, so it's just bear that in mind. I mean, you may want that effect or you may not want that effect. So the next step you do is you put the ice on. Very, very important. I used ready shop bought ice because I don't have a massive ice, I don't have an ice machine at home, so I bought bags of ice for £1, and I bought 3 or 4 bags, emptied it into a big bowl, and then just tipped it in. Then once the ice is on, it's time to sprinkle your dye on. The next thing to do is basically get your dyes. So I'll just show you some of the dyes. So here are the dyes that I had. So these are the Dharma Fibre Reactive dyes, and this is the Plum Blossom. So some of them, you know, look exactly like the colour that you want them to be. That's like a pinky purpley colour. And what else have we got? Got Whisteria, which is like a more lilac-y colour. And the website for Dharma has a brilliant website that you can look at all the colours and pull them aside onto a colour palette, and I'll show you a screen print of that somewhere. And I got to play around with my colour palette and see what they would look like, so I'll show those on there and you can have a look. But yeah, I got about 10 different dyes altogether, and I went with some blues and dark purples, and then I went for some like more lighter purples with more subtle tones, I suppose, because purple isn't really a massive colour that I'm a fan of, or hadn't been a fan of, and put in some sage greens and some like pale yellows and stuff like that to try and mix it up. As I said before, you do need to pay attention to, or be aware of the fact that when you sprinkle it on, depending on how you mix the colours, if you put like blue and yellow together, you will get a greeny colour. So you need to be aware of that. And don't worry, so you sprinkle it all over the ice. Now I did get told less is more. The first time I did this, I did go crazy with the colour, and it didn't ruin it, but there was a much darker colour than I wanted, so I'm glad I did a tester. I really was looking for very, very subtle watercolour tones. I didn't want anything bright, so I'm really glad I did this tester, really, and I've got some great ones to show you. And don't worry when you first put it on, it kind of, and I've got some images, it starts off so it doesn't look like there's a lot on there at all, then it looks like it's loads on there, and then as it starts to develop, you know, it changes, and it really is a test of patience, because you're just so keen to look or think, oh, there's not enough on, and put more on, but really just let the process take place and just sit back and wait. Now you also, at the end of it, the water at the bottom looks like a muddy mess, and sometimes, depending on what colours you've used, the actual garment looks like a complete mess as well. But I promise you, it won't look like a mess afterwards, because by the time you wash it out, you'll see that it actually tones down and becomes beautiful. So you then wait 24 hours for the ice to melt. So after 24 hours, you can leave it longer, 24 to 48 hours. I only left it for 24 hours. You then get your garment and you wash out all of the dye. So you basically put it under cold water and keep squeezing it out and washing it with no detergent, just water, until the water runs clear. That's very important. Once it runs clear, you can pop it into the washing machine with the detergent and give it a good wash. And then once it comes out, I just tumble dried mine because I wanted to get it done quickly. So that is the process, and you just look at what happens afterwards. And I did quite a few testers. So my first testers I did share on Instagram. I'll put a picture of it on. The t-shirt's actually in the wash because I do wear that, but this is the pillowcase. So this is where I went a bit crazy with all the blues, but everybody loved this one. It's really interesting. It just looks like paint. It reminds me of paint, and that's what I really like about it. So this was the lots of navies and blues, and like even like the little splatters. I just could look at it all day. Look at this beautifulness. So that was my pillowcase. Gorgeous. And my t-shirt, again, I like my t-shirt, but it's a bit too dark. I want it a little bit less subtle. A little bit more subtle. And then the next testers that I did with my daughter Isabel. She did 3 of her t-shirts, and one of them is particularly amazing, but I'll show you. So this one I did a little bit less blue, a little bit more pink, sorry, a little bit more purple, and yeah, I really like this one, but again, it was a bit bright for me. And then this one, I've done this on Baby Grows for Alice, by the way. This one was using the Ecru colour, which is these yellows that you can see in it, and using eggplant and darker purples, which, so I loved both of those, but actually what I wanted to do is a bit more of a combination of both of them. So somewhere between the two was what I was looking towards. So that was those. And then my daughter's ones, she did, these are all using the scrunch method, by the way. And you can see, so daughter did this one. She hates this one. She thinks this one looks like poo, basically, is what she said. So she doesn't like this one very much. So I don't think she'll be wearing this one. But she really liked this one. This was like a blue and dark purples that she did. Really, really cute. Absolutely love that one. And then her final one, we basically twisted this one like this and then wrapped it in a spiral like this. And this made a really interesting effect, which I think just is really nice. She loves this one. And you can see that it's just basically got lines going down it in all these interesting colours. I mean, you couldn't recreate this again. So she's got green in there, purples, pinks, and just really gorgeousness. So yeah, that's her favourite one, using a different method. So you can see that where it was twisted round, it hasn't got as much ink on, as much dye on it, and that gives a really cool effect. So those are all the testers. So then when it came to the real thing, I was very, very scared, but I tried to do the blend of this one and see, hopefully I get somewhere in the middle, and I feel like I did. So this is my loungewear set and I absolutely love it. It's purple, but it's not too purple. I've got a little tag on it that says aim for the stars in purple, and I'm really, really happy with it. I'll insert pictures of me wearing it, but in fact I'll go and stand over here so you can see. I'll put a full length picture. I'll put a full length picture of me in it, but this is it and I absolutely love it. It's just really nice. I didn't know how I'd feel about it being purple, but I must say, I will definitely wear this. My dog's barking, sorry. I will definitely wear this out and about, but I hope you can see that it's just beautiful. It's just like the watercolours. Yeah, just really, really lovely. And got blues and dark purples. I'm just really happy with it. And I feel like this is something that I'm going to And the great thing about it is, like, the dyes are a couple of pounds each, so you can build up your stash of different colours. I'm keen to look at some colours that are more in my colour palette as well, and experiment with some of those. So yeah, I hope you like this too. You enjoyed this vlog on my beginner's guide to ice dyeing. If you've got any questions about ice dyeing, please reach out and put your comments in the comments, and I'd love to chat with you about it and love to see your makes as well. After the 28th, I'll be posting this on my Instagram page with the hashtag So Purple to End ALZ22, and I'm really excited to see what Michelle's looks like. I think Michelle's might be a bit more bright and vibrant because she loves bold colours, and I'm really excited to see it. We've been kind of teasing each other on Instagram with our ice dyeing, and she did tell me it was addictive, and it definitely is addictive, especially when you're a creative person. You know, it's a joy. If you haven't already, please follow the hashtag. If you haven't took part in the challenge, there's still time to sew something purple. It can be anything. It could be a t-shirt, it could be anything. Or at all possible financially, if you would consider making a donation, no matter how big or small it is. I will link the donation page below. Michelle doesn't care how the donation goes in, so whether you want to do it direct to the Alzheimer's and dementia charities, or you want to donate to her page, however you want to do it, please do it. And yeah, such a great cause. And if you have come over from Michelle's channel, thank you for coming and watching this. And if you're one of my regular viewers, I appreciate you supporting me along with this challenge. So that's all from me for now. I hope you've enjoyed this challenge. Please check out all the details below about Alzheimer's and dementia, and I'll see you all soon. That's all from me. Happy sewing. Bye.